Do you dare believe that in this world, there are still places where you can live for free, from housing and meals to the chance to immerse yourself in local life? All it takes is the courage to pack your bags and go. Imagine waking up in France, in an ancient village, biting into a crisp baguette in the morning, and raising a glass of fragrant red wine in the evening. All completely free, with a visa that lets you stay for a full year. Hard to believe? That's just the beginning. Because there are 4 other countries with unbelievable offers waiting for you to discover. So the real question is, will you let this opportunity slip away? Or will you be ready to begin a second life of your own? Write down everything you're thinking right below. Dream it. Pack it. Go. 5. Denmark, the Higa Kingdom of Northern Europe. If there's one place in the world where happiness is wrapped in the smell of rye bread, the golden glow of candles on a wooden table, and the ringing of bicycle bells outside the window, it's Denmark. The Danes have a word that's hard to translate but has spread worldwide. Hygge. It's not an object or a destination, but a feeling of being embraced, of being safe, of being at ease. And if you're an American over 50, thinking of trying a few months abroad, or even finding a long-term home, Denmark is the living picture that shows how quality of life can be expensive, yet truly priceless. Americans have an advantage. You can enter Denmark with just a passport and stay 90 days without a visa. But if you want to stay longer, the game changes entirely. There's no easy digital nomad visa like in Portugal or Spain. To settle, you need a job or a legal reason. The pay limit scheme work visa requires a minimum salary of about $54,000 a year. It's a hefty figure, but in return, you gain access to one of the best social systems on the planet. If you're lucky enough to qualify as a specialist, you can choose a tax break. 27% for 7 years, plus 8% social contributions, instead of the regular 55%. It's like being handed a rare discount card at a Scandinavian supermarket, uncommon, but real. And if you only want to taste Denmark for a few months, without contracts, there are work exchange programs. Workaway, WWOOF, Help Stay. You might move to an organic farm in Jutland, garden a few hours each day, and in exchange, receive a cozy room and hot meals. You'll eat with the family, sip tea by candlelight, hear stories of village life, and realize what you have isn't free lodging, but the chance to live like a local. Don't expect the government to hand you free plane tickets. That doesn't exist. But sometimes, the experience of being welcomed into a stranger's family is worth more than flying business class. What about the cost? This is when many Americans frown. Copenhagen is not cheap. A one-bedroom apartment in the city center can eat up $1,150 a month, while in the suburbs it's still close to $900. Eating out isn't much cheaper. A simple meal costs $11.13, a cappuccino $5, and a dozen eggs $4. An internet bill runs around $30, a phone plan $22, and a public transit pass $60 per month. All told, one person needs between $2,200 and $2,600 a month to live comfortably. Quick comparison. That's nearly double the living cost of many mid-sized U.S. cities. But if you choose work exchange, nearly all housing and food expenses disappear, leaving you with just a few $100s for pocket money. A very tempting equation. What people over 50 care about most is healthcare. In the U.S., one trip to the ER can keep you up at night over the bill. In Denmark, public health care is a right, not a privilege. Once you gain long-term residency, you receive a yellow card, the Sundhedskort. This little card opens the door to family doctors, hospitals, and prescriptions, almost entirely free of charge. For short-term stays, all you need is travel insurance for a few $100s a year, giving you peace of mind if something happens. That alone is a massive advantage for Americans used to fearing hospital bills. Speaking of safety, Denmark feels like a 1960s version of America, but cleaner, calmer, and with more bikes than cars. You can walk home at midnight and only worry about being cold, not being robbed. Violent crime is extremely rare. The only thing to watch out for is pickpocketing in crowded tourist spots. In short, if safety is your top priority, Denmark offers peace of mind like a warm embrace. Taxes, of course, are the elephant in the room. Be prepared that if you plan to work here, the government will take more than half of your income. But in return, you're buying a package of benefits that many in the US can only dream of. Free healthcare, free education, smoothly running public infrastructure, and a society built on trust. If you're retired and living on a US pension, the situation is much lighter because most of that income is not taxed as heavily as labor income in Denmark. And if you're here under a volunteer arrangement, there's practically nothing tax-related at all. So in the end, living in Denmark is both sweet and bitter. Sweet for its quality of life, safety, free public health care, and friendly people who speak English so well, you'll never worry about language barriers. Bitter for its high prices, long dark winters that feel like living in a noir film, and a tax system that makes you swallow hard before signing any contract. But if you're willing to pay the price for peace, security, and a society that runs like a Danish bicycle, simple, durable, and smooth, then this is paradise for life after 50. And what about you? Would you be ready to try a few months of hygge living on an organic farm? Or even consider settling long-term in this kingdom of happiness? Leave a comment below. Hit like if you found this useful, and subscribe to join me in exploring more countries, because who knows? Your dream home might not be far away, but right here in a peaceful corner by the Baltic Sea. 4. France. The kingdom of wine, bread, and the slow life dream. Have you ever wondered? What would happen if one day you moved to France, not just for a few weeks of travel, but to truly belong here? Imagine stepping out of your old apartment in Strasbourg in the morning, buying a fresh baguette for the price of a cup of coffee in the US, then leisurely sitting under a Gothic cathedral watching life pass by. It's not just a trip, it's an entire lifestyle. And the best part? Americans can absolutely turn that dream into reality, whether for just a few months or for a lifetime. France opens many doors. For Americans who want to stay longer than 90 days, there is the long-stay visa VLSTS Visiteur, which allows a one-year stay, renewable annually, and the option to apply for residency after 5 years. The main requirement: proof of stable income of about $1,800 per month and private health insurance. If you're a professional, the Passport Talent Visa lasts up to 4 years and makes it easier to work, start a business, or do research. And if you just want a taste, Workaway, WabiWoof, or HelpX always have hundreds of families, farms, and homestays ready to host you for free with 3 meals a day in exchange for just a few hours of light work. What you gain is more than housing and dinner. It's the feeling of being needed. The average cost of living for one person in France, outside Paris, is usually around $1,200–$1,500 per month, if you live modestly and not right in the capital's center. A one-bedroom apartment in the suburbs is about $600 per month, while in central Paris, it can reach $800–$900. An American couple in the provinces usually spends $900–$1,300 on rent. Monthly groceries run about $320, with fresh vegetables, cheese, and wine. An espresso is just $160, and a good bottle of wine costs 6 to 8 to, cheaper than a Starbucks latte back home. Utilities and internet are about $150 per month. And if you join a volunteer program, nearly all food and housing is covered. You only need a bit of pocket money. The thing that truly makes France stand out for Americans over 50 is healthcare. After 3 months of legal residence, you can register in the public insurance system, PUMA. A visit to a family doctor costs $28, but you only pay about $9 because 70% is reimbursed. Chronic illnesses such as diabetes, hypertension, or cancer are covered 100%. For shorter stays, you only need to buy travel insurance for about $40-70 per month, far cheaper than premiums in the US. In other words, if in America you live under the shadow of hospital bills, in France you breathe easier thanks to fair and accessible healthcare. And what about safety? France may have pickpockets in Paris or Marseille, but most towns and villages are so peaceful you can leave your bike outside unlocked. Protests and strikes sometimes make headlines in US media, but in reality, they rarely affect foreigners directly. The French may seem distant at first, but if you sit down at the table, share dinner with wine and cheese, they open up and treat you like family. Taxes, of course, are the heartburn point for many. If you live in France more than 183 days, you become a tax resident and may face income tax rates of up to 41-45%. Add social contributions, and the number gets high. But remember, in return you get free schools, free hospitals, efficient infrastructure, and a dense social safety net. If you live on a U.S. pension, thanks to the U.S.-France double taxation treaty, you won't be taxed twice. Volunteers without pay are almost untouched by taxes. So what is life in France? It's shopping in the morning at a farmer's market, chatting with neighbors while watering the garden, and feeling like you are part of a community. The advantages: rich culture, top-notch healthcare, high quality of life, and relatively reasonable costs outside Paris. The drawbacks: complicated bureaucracy, high taxes, and if you don't speak French, integration may take longer than you'd hope. But think about it. Life after 50 is not about counting every dollar, but about living days that truly matter. If one morning you could wake up in Bordeaux with the smell of ripe grapes, in Provence with lavender fields, or in Normandy with salted butter and fresh bread, which would you choose? Leave your answer in the comments. Don't forget to hit like if you've ever dreamed of a slow life in France, and subscribe to keep following the journey as we explore other countries. Because who knows? Your second home might be waiting just around the corner. 3. Italy. The land of La Dolce Vita, where every street corner tells a story. Can you believe there are villages in Italy willing to pay you $850 a month just to move there? That's right. From Calabria to Molise, these ancient towns are trying to revive themselves by inviting foreigners to settle down, open a small cafe, a bookshop, or simply add more laughter to the village square. And if that's not tempting enough, remember the One Home program? You buy a historic house for nearly nothing, put in a little effort to restore it, and suddenly, you're the owner of a piece of history. Americans already have an advantage. You're exempt from a Schengen visa for 90 days. But if you want to stay longer, Italy has many options. The most popular for retirees is the elective residency visa. You just need to prove stable income of about $33,000 per year from pension or investments and have private health insurance. With this visa, you get a 2-year residence card, which can then be renewed and gradually lead to long-term residency. In addition, there's the startup visa, the freelance visa for independent professionals, and the golden visa if you make a large investment. In other words, Italy doesn't just offer you an espresso, but multiple pathways to fully savor life here. If you're unsure, try a volunteer season. Platforms like Workaway, WWoof, and HelpX list hundreds of opportunities. Stay on a vineyard farm in Tuscany, harvest olives in the fall, enjoy free lodging, fresh pasta, and wine straight from the garden. No free plane tickets, but nearly all living costs are covered, turning the experience into a true trial life. The average cost of living for one person in Italy ranges from $1,200 to $1,600 per month. In Rome or Milan, renting a one-bedroom apartment in the city center is about $900 to $100, while suburbs or small towns are only $550 to $750. Food is pleasantly affordable. A breakfast of coffee and pastry just $3, a budget lunch $11 to $13, a good bottle of local wine only $5 to $7. Internet is about $28 per month, a bus ticket $150. Compared to the US, especially big cities, living in Italy feels far lighter, especially if you choose a small town instead of the urban center. For Americans over 50, healthcare is a big advantage. Italy has the National Servizio Sanitario Nazionale, SSN, free public health care for legal residents. Once you have a residence permit and tax code, you register with a family doctor and receive care almost at no cost, aside from a few small co-pays. Short-term visitors only need to buy travel insurance for about $40 to $60 a month. The quality of healthcare in major cities is highly rated, while family doctors in rural areas offer a rare kind of close, personal care. Safety is also a strong point. Italy ranks high on the Global Peace Index, with violent crime being rare, mostly limited to pickpocketing at train stations or tourist sites. The north and countryside are particularly peaceful. The southern mafia still exists, but it rarely affects foreigners. As long as you practice basic caution, you can relax and enjoy la dolce vita. Living in Italy means living slow, living sweet. It's a $3 espresso in the morning, an afternoon stroll through the Colosseum, and an authentic Neapolitan pizza at night. Pros: culture, climate, cuisine, free healthcare, and a welcoming community. Cons: bureaucratic red tape, Italian isn't easy to learn, and costs can be high in big cities. But in exchange, you get to buy the sweetness people call la dolce vita, a life worth dreaming of. So what would you choose? The bustle of Rome, the modern vibe of Milan, or a small Sicilian village where an old house costs just $1? Leave your answer in the comments. Hit like if you'd love to try La Dolce Vita, and remember to subscribe to keep following our journey through more countries to come. 2. Colombia. Coffee, salsa, and an unbelievably affordable life. Close your eyes and picture this. You wake up in Medellin, the city known as the Valley of Eternal Spring. On your porch is a steaming cup of Arabica coffee for just $1.50. Salsa music drifts in the distance, and suddenly you realize it all costs about the same as a quick breakfast back in the US. Colombia today is no longer tied to the instability of the past. Americans can enter visa-free for 90 days, giving you plenty of time to test the waters. If you want to stay long-term, the options are surprisingly diverse. The retirement visa, Pensionado M11, requires just $850 per month in pension income, allowing you to live for 3 years, renew it, and eventually apply for permanent residency. Remote workers can opt for the digital nomad visa, C11, needing only $900 per month from a foreign company, plus international health insurance, granting up to a 2-year stay. There are also visas for real estate investment, employment, or even volunteering if you want to join community projects. Living costs are shockingly low. A single person can get by on $500–750 per month. Rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Bogota or Medellin runs $120–200, and in smaller towns, it's even cheaper. Breakfast with eggs, corn cakes, and coffee is just $3. A hearty lunch, $10. A taxi ride across town, $3. High-speed internet costs around $20 per month. Compared to the US, this lifestyle really does feel like a financial pressure release. Healthcare in Colombia often surprises many Americans. The public insurance system, EPS, covers 97% of the population, with monthly premiums of only a few dozen. A family doctor visit costs just $5–10, and medications are heavily subsidized. Hospitals in Bogota and Medellin are modern, on par with Europe, yet far cheaper. Many expats still choose to add private international insurance for extra peace of mind. But even the public system is already a major advantage. Taxes are also quite breathable. If you stay under 183 days, you only pay tax on income earned in Colombia. Even when settling permanently, U.S. pension income is often not taxed here. This policy has led many American retirees to call Colombia a cheap retirement paradise. The pros: low costs, diverse climate, good health care, and a welcoming expat community. The cons: sometimes tricky bureaucracy, weaker rural infrastructure, and if you don't speak Spanish, you may feel a bit lost at first. But in return, you gain the chance to live a colorful life, dancing salsa in the Medellin night, sipping world-famous Arabica coffee, or watching the sunrise over the Caribbean Sea. So if you had a ticket in hand, what would you choose? A 150 morning coffee or salsa music pulling you into a new adventure? Drop your answer in the comments. Hit like if you think Colombia is worth a try, and don't forget to subscribe to discover the next journeys. 1. Portugal, where life slows down and the world still smiles. If there's one country that makes American retirees say, "Why didn't I come sooner?" it's Portugal. One afternoon at a small cafe in Lisbon, you order a glass of wine for just $3, watch the golden sunset spill across the red rooftops, and suddenly realize, here, living well is surprisingly affordable. Americans are visa-free for 90 days to explore, but if you want to stay longer, there are countless options. The most popular is the D7 visa, designed for retirees or those with passive income, requiring about $900–1,000 per month. If you work online, the newly launched D8 Digital Nomad Visa allows you to stay for 5 years, as long as you can show an income of $3,700 per month. There's also the D2 Entrepreneur Visa and the NHR tax program, currently being revised, which used to grant just a 20% flat tax, or even exemptions on much foreign income. For those seeking long-term stability, Portugal truly opens its arms. Volunteer programs and communities are also vibrant here. Workaway, HelpX, and WWPWoof list hundreds of hosts, from Douro vineyards to Algarve guest houses. You'll get free lodging and meals in exchange for a few hours of work each day. Some regions even offer housing incentives or travel support to encourage new residents. The average cost of living for one person is around $1,400 per month, much lower than in the US and France. Renting a one-bedroom apartment in central Lisbon costs about $500 in Porto, $950, but in smaller towns only $600–800. Food is extremely affordable, $208 per month for full meals, a fast food combo $6, an espresso just $1. Fiber optic internet is $37, mobile $16, and a bus or tram pass $45 per month. With a $1,500 budget, you live comfortably, with enough left over for dining out and seaside trips. Healthcare is a major advantage. The SNS system allows legal residents to see doctors almost free or at symbolic fees. Registration is simple. With a residence card and tax number, you receive a patient ID. Public hospitals in Lisbon and Porto are modern, while local clinics are friendly and accessible. For short stays, travel insurance of 40-50 per month is sufficient. In terms of safety, Portugal ranks in the world's top 10 according to the Global Peace Index. You can walk at night in most cities without worry. Violent crime is rare, with only occasional pickpocketing in tourist areas. For Americans used to heavy police presence, the level of safety here truly feels like a breath of fresh air. Portugal's strengths: mild year-round climate, reasonable costs, nearly free healthcare, outstanding security, and friendly locals who speak good English. Weaknesses: slow bureaucracy, Portuguese is hard to learn, and housing prices in Lisbon and Porto are rising quickly. But with Algarve's blue seas, Porto's cobblestone streets, and the warm, unhurried atmosphere, this is paradise for Americans seeking retirement that is both safe and sweet. What would you choose? An apartment near the Algarve coast, a small house in Porto, or a cafe overlooking the Tagus River? Leave a comment. Hit like if you also want to try a slow but steady life in Portugal. And don't forget to subscribe to follow the next journey of discovery. 5 countries, 5 different shades of life. From the peace and happiness of Denmark, the romantic flavors of France, the sweet la dolce vita of Italy, to the low cost and vibrant energy of Colombia, and the warm, safe atmosphere of Portugal. Each place offers an opportunity to live cheaper, to live deeper, and above all, to truly live. The question is, will you keep just dreaming, or dare to pack your bags and start the next chapter of your life? Leave a comment with the country you choose. Hit like and subscribe to join me on the journeys ahead.